Hi everybody, this question is asking us to determine algebraically the domain, range, intercepts, and asymptotes of this expression right here. Okay, well before I do anything, when I see that expression right there, okay, it doesn't look like in the right form to me, because notice that the horizontal stretch and the horizontal translation, they have not been factored apart here. So I'm going to just take a couple seconds here. I'm going to rewrite this as y equals the log, common log, of 2 x plus 1/2 minus 2. Okay, now I'm in a much better position to identify the domain and range and so on here. Now, I'm lazy. I'm going to hit the low-hanging fruit here first. This is a logarithmic function. Okay, I know that a log, if I just wrote y is the log of x here, that would look something like this. Okay, and that its range would be all reals. A horizontal stretch by a factor of 1/2, a horizontal translation 1/2 to the left, and a vertical translation 2 down. None of those are going to change that. So my range here is going to remain all reals. Okay, now let's talk about the domain. Okay, well the domain of a logarithmic function here should be x is greater than 0. So a horizontal stretch by a factor of 1/2 actually won't change that. Okay, all that's going to happen here is that this graph is going to kind of shrink towards the the y-axis here, but it's actually not going to change the fact that the domain is still greater than 0. Neither will, by the way, a vertical translation 2 units down. However, moving this a 1/2 unit to the left, okay, that will change the domain. Because right now, the vertical asymptote is at 0. But everything here is going to shift a 1/2 unit to the left. So now, my domain is going to be the set of x values such that x is greater than -1/2. Okay, so that's my domain and range. Now, the intercepts. Okay, well, let's do the y-intercept first, because again, that's going to be the easiest one here. All I got to do is make x equal to 0. Okay, now let's figure this out here. 0 plus 1/2 is 1/2. Okay, that's not hard. 2 times 1/2. Well, 2 times 1/2 is 1. And the reason I'm hesitating here, well, okay, what's the log of 1? The log of 1 is just 0. So actually this whole thing collapses and I'm just left with -2. So the y-intercept here is -2. The x-intercept, well, the x-intercept is always a little bit more interesting. So I let y equal 0 and I'm going to get log of 2 times x plus 1/2 minus 2. Okay, well this is a logarithmic equation. So the very first thing I want to do is bring the 2 over to isolate the log. Now, once I've got the logs by themselves on one side, I want to combine them into one log, and that's been done. Now what I want to do is get rid of the logarithm, okay? It's a logarithmic equation. I want to remove the logarithm. So I do that by converting forms. The base here is 10, so this becomes 10 to the 2, and that's going to equal 2 times x plus 1/2. Now all I got to do is solve for x here. That's actually relatively easy, because 10 to the 2 is 100. And then I'm going to divide by 2, and I'll get 50. And then I'm going to subtract that 0.5. Well, 50 minus 0.5 will be 49.5. So therefore, the x-intercept is going to be 49.5. Well, that's pretty easy. The last thing we got to do here is find the asymptotes. And for a logarithm, let's go back over here. The logarithm is going to have an asymptote here if you don't transform it at y equals 0. But in this case, y equals 0, x equals 0. Sorry, it's a vertical asymptote. So x equals 0. And that's been moved a 1/2 unit to the left. So my asymptote, I'm going to have I keep wanting to do this horizontally. It's a vertical asymptote of x equals -1/2.